We're going to just have a quick presentation on ARPA funds. I know this was a study session that was long overdue. I know Councilman Wenzel was one that requested this study session regarding what's happening with all the ARPA funds, where it's at, how much will we spent, how much is remaining. And so we're going to tip our hat over to Mr. Deeb. I do ask that if you have any questions, just write them down. If they're urgent, just go through the chair. But at this point, let's let Mr. Deeb just go through his presentation. Thank you. So, Mr. Deeb, just
Yes, sir.
quickly, I know you already gave us a couple of things here. Ultimately, what we want to know is how much we were awarded, what we've allocated for, and then if I know we say $10 million went to
Fund.
the $10 million with the water sewer, but in reality, I want to break it down. We actually used 2.6 or 2.4 that went to the budget of 1 year, and then we put a remaining 7.8 or 7.6 remaining, please. So I want to break it down to the T. It's important that the residents know this, the council knows this, and so that we're just being transparent and open with everything. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Council Chair. Good evening. This presentation, well, first of all, I have Michelle Lewis, which obviously Plant Moran, she will be helping me with the accounting part. I'm just trying to provide an high-level view of what the ARPA money is, what it's for, and how we intend to use it. And we'll go from there. Mariana Hernandez is our Chief of Staff, and she's very involved in this entire program. So with that, I'm going to start with, you have copies of all the slides that I'm going to go through. So, if you just want to follow through or just keep them for information. As we all know, the original ARPA award was $24,314,463. That is to the dollar. And that, again, Michelle verified all these numbers for me. So we used $10 million of that for revenue loss category. So that was the allowable number that was moved to general fund. And if you wanted to break it down further, we'll have to rely on my accounting people. So in red is what the deductions were from the original 24,314. BLN ARPA consultant, we estimated, in addition what we spent so far, about $200,000 of the $24,314,000.
Of the 24 million, we've only spent 200,000.
We didn't spend the entire 200. We spent 80, approximately 79 something, and I still have a couple assignments pending. So we estimate the entire spending will be about 200,000 out of the 24 million. Yes,
We
sir.
budgeted a lot more for them though, right?
Yes. The contract. It's task oriented, so they don't get the money. It's
Okay.
up to. So far, that's all we gave them, and I'm using them very briefly. I have enough talents, and I can do in-house. Anyway, so 200,000, which leaves me with about ARPA available $40,114,463 to the dollar. Now, please keep in mind that these things, the dollars must be obligated by December 31st of this year. So I must obligate the money, or else it goes back to the government. Spending must be completed by December 31st of 2026. So I'm just going to do a quick reminder what ARPA compliant uses are, and that is to respond to public health and negative economic impacts of the pandemic, provide premium pay to essential workers, or provide government services to the extent of revenue loss due to the pandemic, and then finally making necessary investments in the water and sewers and broadband infrastructure. So these are the guidelines. So if the last presentation, when I was making overall projects, I had to take that into account because some of the projects did not qualify to use that funding for. Right? So we had to limit it to what it was qualified. Now, so from the local share, if you remember the first slide, from the local share, we have two projects that are high priority for us. Water meter replacement at 13.2 and water main replacement, 5 location at 7270275. So that will be a total of $10,097,285. So where's that money coming from? Remaining 2021 CIP bond, the bonds that we sold in 2021 have $7,709,812 remaining for these projects. And I'm using ARPA funds 2387473, which will give me the total I need for these two projects. So this is where the 10 million is coming from. That's the plan anyway. Now, what about the rest of the money, you say? Okay, so from the first slide, if you look, we have 14,114,463 available after the 10 million is used. In the red boxes, so we took 2,387,473 for the two projects that I mentioned earlier as our local share. And then ARPA, and then the rest, which is 10,726,990, will be used for ARPA compliant infrastructure. This leaves us with $1 million for premium pay and worker emergencies. So that million. So this is the plan for the 14,114. The bottom number, the 10,726, consists of, there is, I put an attachment in your package which shows the water main breaks that our city is experiencing. I tracked them the last 3 or 4 years, 3 years, well, 3.5 years. These are extremely problematic for us. Every location has been done, and sometimes multiple breaks. That's an indication that if you look at the cluster where all these things are located, that gives you an idea. It's based on age and condition of the system. So those are the projects, water and sewers, that we selected to use the ARPA money because they do qualify. And that should help us reduce our operating expense by replacing aging infrastructure. So this is the map. And then one last comment I'd like to make for the initial, apparently back in 23, on May 23rd, 2023, we did have council approval of the funding for the capital projects. However, since that date, we received 2 additional grants. So I might be coming back to you now with additional grants to either amend or issue another resolution. State agencies require elected officials to approve the funding plan before we actually proceed and actually receive grants. So this is a real high level again. The intent here is to provide you with the ability to see where the 24,314,463 are planned to be used for. Any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. So I know the mayor emailed this to me, and I was waiting to see, I know we have premium paid to essential workers in emergencies, that's that $1 million. But this council respectfully voted on two amounts. $700,000, which was set aside by Councilman Wenzel's resolution. And then there was $600,000 that was also approved in the Joey Smith initiative, which was going to go almost $300,000 to $400,000 from the grant that was received, and then we were going to use $600,000 from ARPA funds. So we've already allocated $700,000 and $600,000 also set aside, which was solidified and approved by this body. Can you make sure that it reflects these, because this does not reflect either one of those?
Are they capable?
So again, we can only use ARPA funds on eligible expenses. Those are not eligible expenses.
That's not true, because we actually had the councilman pull up a Milwaukee street, and I showed it to Mr. Deeb, where ARPA funds were used to enhance lighting and around public safety or across the entire city of Milwaukee. And if we're being said also, which I think you're mistaken, that we cannot use this to essential workers that work during COVID, that's what it was made for. ARPA fund was to help those people. Excuse me one second.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
And so I'd like to believe, or I'd like you guys to know that when the councilman put his resolution forward, there was no rebuttal that this is illegal and you can't put this money set aside to help the police and fire or any employee that worked during COVID and they're still currently employed, I believe, Councilman, that was your resolution, am I correct? That they would receive that money. So, Mariana, respectfully, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think I think you stand mistaken there. You definitely can use ARPA funds, which I've also had a conversation with the Deputy County Executive Assad Turfi and asked him these questions because I knew that was gonna be said to us, and he said 100%. You can use it to essential workers. If they work during COVID, you can give them that money. And we have precedent that Milwaukee, I showed you the article, I believe Margaret King brought it to us, showing us that you can use those initiatives to enhance safety for residents in your municipalities.
Council Chair.
Hang on one second, I just want to hear what they have to state.
So the premium pay, all day long, you can use the ARPA. The streets or the, whatever you're.
Public safety initiative, it was not streets.
Okay. So I think what you're thinking of is how they use part of their revenue loss dollars. So you can use that for those sort of programs.
Can you show me where you say they cannot be used?
Well, it shows the 4 categories, which are infrastructure related to water, sewer, and broadband.
Council Chair.
Hang on one second. I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. I know we have.
Michelle.
Michelle.
No worries.
Michelle, so I want you to know before
Yeah.
putting it forward.
Yep.
I knew that there was going to be pushback.
Yeah.
From the start, there was pushback. Even when the resolution was on, I received emails, why are you doing this? And I knew that the administration didn't want to move forward with it. So I did my own research. And so if I have to bring the experts to another study session to inform this administration that this is allowed, then I can do so. But I think you guys all stand incorrectly here. It could be used.
I'm definitely not arguing with the fact that you can use your 10 million for that.
But you are 100% disagreeing that the 600,000 can be used for the public safety initiative, can enhancing a better quality of life for our residents?
I'd have to understand what the initiative is. I was under the impression when you said that it was for streets, but I guess I'm mistaken at what you're saying. Okay.
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 It's okay.
Yep.
Council Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So infrastructure does fall for safety also. That is part of infrastructure.
ARPA is very specific in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So water and sewer, anything that gives you clean water or healthy sewer, and anything that will bring broadband to your community. So that's their definition under the grant of infrastructure.
And do we have this in a written statement from BLN, by the way?
Right.
I don't know what
You do have
from
it?
BLN. Okay.
Council Chair?
Yeah.
It is in the, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, go ahead.
It is in the final rule from the IRS, or Department of Treasury.
I know we're paid BLN. Did BLN give us a statement?
I don't know.
They did? Can you share that email with us? Take your laptop with you?
At the beginning of the funding for ARPA, when we hired BLN, they did a presentation, and there's a website that establishes all of the categories and what the meanings of those categories are.
I was here.
So we can look back at that, but that was a presentation made by BLN. If you want them to come back and do another statement, we can do that.
That wasn't, no, I don't want them to come back. They can give us a written statement that they state that they cannot be used, and you guys have the resolution that was done for, and so you guys have it, and if they confirm in writing that this cannot be used for it, I'd love you to share that with the council. But I think it's important that we automatically don't just stand here and say, this can't be used, because there's precedent showing otherwise that it could be used. And I've spoken to the county who received the money, who issued it to us. So I've asked them, can this be used? And they said, and I'm not talking about the money that we took the 10 million and we put it in lost revenue.
Council
Can
Chair?
you
talking about
share
actual-
the specifics of the program that
Council
you're
Chair.
interested in, so we can share that with them and they
It's in
can
the
look into
resolution.
it?
Council Chair,
Okay,
I'll
take a
clear this
peek.
all up right now because, can I talk?
Yeah, is your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
When we made these resolutions, it specified that these funds be taken out of the unrestricted part of the ARPA money.
Okay, so just take it out of the unrestricted.
Yeah.
But then we said it's all put towards the revenue loss and there's no more money of that.
Which is unrestricted.
Well, that's part of the no, this is, the
No.
revenue loss is different from the unrestricted part.
I know, the one that's unrestricted that was put towards revenue loss is no longer, according to the administration, we no longer have any of that money remaining.
We have no longer any unrestricted money left. That's why we needed a more thorough breakdown on.
Do we have any more of that unrestricted fund?
It's
Because
all
I
the
was,
general fund.
So when you took the 10 million, it was all to general funds, fund balance. So as you were saying with the, the use of fund balance last year, you used about 3.3 overall of fund balance. So part of that was part of the ARPA, of course. You are welcome to use that for those initiatives, absolutely. Anything that's in your fund balance, you're more than welcome to. The 700, of course, can be used for the premium pay in that special category, so you don't have to touch that revenue loss money. And then once we figure out the resolution for your 600.
When we pass these resolution, what do we do with the money? Are they like, and, because I know one of them was, Councilman said he wanted to be put that 700,000 in a restricted fund. So did we ever move that money or did we just leave it there?
So the 700 would be shown in your financial statements when they're issued at the end of the year as committed fund balance. Because anytime you commit your fund balance, it will be a separate line on your financial statements.
So Council Chair, I have a question. So when they moved the money to the general fund, I mean, then it's unrestricted in the general fund. It can be used for anything.
Correct.
So there we go. So why can't we take that money and use it
You
for
can.
infrastructure?
You
So
can.
what's the argument here?
I think the argument is that we were talking about money that wasn't in that pot, that 10 million.
But there is no money left. Everything was put into the general fund. Am I incorrect on that?
The 10 million,
That was the
Was-
losses, right?
the 10 million from ARPA was put into the general fund as revenue loss, which is what the federal government allows you to call it. The 14 million is what we're talking about now that can
Right.
be spent on other things that are ARPA eligible.
So where's that money at right now?
It's-
in the general fund.
It is currently in unearned revenue in the general fund, so it's not in your fund balance.
Well, council passed a resolution last year moving it,
The-
because if they didn't move it, they were gonna lose it.
The 10 million. The 10
The
million.
10
is-
million was 2 years ago.
10 million was last year, the 23 fiscal year.
From the 22 year though, it came to the 23 fiscal year.
The 22-23 fiscal year,
Correct.
yes.
And then from 23 to 24,
There's-
council passed to move something into the general fund or else they were gonna lose it.
There was no ARPA left to move from the.
Because Councilman Wenzel had made a motion and the mayor, his words on the microphone were, there is no more ARPA, it's in the general fund.
Correct, she just said that.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So, but you guys are saying that, or what you're arguing is that this money can only be used on certain things.
Sir, can I?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
please look at the.
I have it in
see,
front of me.
I know. So the 10 million, the revenue loss 10 million is the money that was moved to the general fund. And that money can be used for what Councilman Wenzel and others, that's money that's unrestricted. It is available. We still have that money. It didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
The rest of it, so these two red categories are the ones that have been touched. The 14,114 is the one that we're talking about for the projects. The compliant projects, the water, sewers, infrastructure is out of that green 14,114. The rest of them, absolutely, yeah, they're still available.
So do we have to put a resolution to put the 600,000 and the 700,000 in a restricted fund so that we don't spend it?
I think we did that before.
No.
No, you put it into committed fund balance, so you can't restrict as a council. You can only commit, as far as accounting terms go. So a restriction is somebody outside of the city, like the granting agency yourself, or themselves. So your money is sitting there in committed fund balance.
The 600,000 and the 700,000?
Yes.
Can you confirm with
Anything
that?
that you're, well, it'll be when you do your financial statements at year end. Anything that's committed
Well,
will
we
be
just-
in committed
I think
fund
we just did our
balance.
financial statement, but that was for the
It
following
was
year,
for,
okay.
the previous year. Yeah, so, but I do want to make completely clear, the 14 million does need to be obligated by the end of this calendar year.
December 31, and it has to be
Yes.
spent by December of 2026.
Yes.
Correct.
December 31st, what the federal government means by obligated is you have to have a signed contract with a vendor or a contractor to spend that money. If you don't,
It goes back.
it has to go back to the federal government. So just wanted to make sure that that is completely clear. And water and sewer infrastructure is one of the best uses for this just because you already have the federal regulations in place and because it will help your community because you have all these water main breaks. It'll help the water rates. It'll help all of the stuff that we're trying to accomplish here.
How would this help the water rates, just curiosity?
Because when you stop the water main breaks, you lose less water. When you're losing less water, you're taking in enough revenue to cover what you're using.
Our problem isn't water breaks, our problem is the bonds that we have against our water.
Actually, Councilman, the excessive water losses due to water main breaks, when we pay our water rates are a combination of what it costs the city to buy water. So the losses that we're sustained are part of our bills. So all these water main breaks, we lose water like crazy, and they go into our water cost. So yes, they do affect our water.
Council Chair?
Councilman Wenzel.
Yes, thank you. The revenue loss, is that allowed under the ARPA?
Yes.
Okay, so then why did we put revenue loss in the unrestricted part? The unrestricted should have been 10 million for things that don't qualify.
Sorry.
Well, it's not 10
I
million, by the way.
meant you're
No, I know.
allowed to take 10 million for revenue loss. That's what I meant, is that it's allowed.
So then, I mean, I'm looking at the, there's part that is, it's, there's no restrictions to what you can use. It's $10 million, right?
Correct. Well,
Okay,
there's
why-
restrictions,
yeah.
but it's provision of government services. So you can't use it to pay your pension, you can't use it to pay lawsuits, you can't use it to pay debt, and you can't use it to cut tax rates.
Okay, so that's 10 million we can use for anything that's not covered under the ARPA rules. So why did we take the restricted part, unrestricted, and put it in with the other because we could have took the revenue loss out of the regular ARPA. Because that qualifies, revenue loss qualifies, right? It's one of the things that qualify?
Well, it does qualify. That's why that 24 million, you took the 10 million out. That's why you moved it out of that.
That's unrestricted, though. I mean, it's like no, you don't have to do it under ARPA rules, basically, right? Kind of the things that qualify for ARPA money spent.
So Councilman, I can explain it to
Okay.
him real quick. $24 million city was given.
Yeah.
They said you have to spend this 14 million on either these 10 items, okay? Or you have a category of items that you can spend up 14 million of it. 10 million of it can go to your general fund and you can claim it as revenue loss. Doesn't mean you actually have revenue loss.
Right.
But I can tell you of the revenue loss, I believe we spent money towards the golf course from this money. We spent $2.4 million towards, you're nodding your head, no? We did, we spent,
Again, just keep
Revenue
in mind,
loss that-
revenue loss is, it was based because of COVID, right? Because all of the cities were having revenue loss on all of your major expenses, whether that was tax revenue or the courts or anything, right? So when we took the 10 million, it wasn't for specific projects. It was to help balance our general fund, which was getting depleted after COVID because we weren't generating as much revenue as we ought to. So it actually went to all of our general expenses, whether that was salaries, just basic maintenance of the city. It all went to different categories. It's not that we tracked specific projects. We didn't track golf course as part of revenue loss because it just went into the general fund and all of our general expenses associated with that.
what I recall in our meeting was, we said we were gonna use ARPA funds for the golf course, ARPA funds to balance our budget for the year, when David Saputo was here, and there was gonna be ARPA funds, was supposed to be a project that we were gonna use.
Again, it's not tracked by project, it's in general. If
I
those were
get
the
that.
needs that we had that year, that is what the money went for.
Do we know how much we've spent of that $10 million so
No,
far?
because it just is your general expenses.
We just put
And
it
we
there
are
and
not
we have no-
required to report how your unrestricted funds are spent. You just see that at your end of the year fiscal year. So again, we do not know which percentages, because once it gets mixed with the rest of the general fund, you no longer track it. So we will never be able to tell you
What we
specific
should have did was, we should have
projects.
taken the 10 million, put it in a separate account outside of
That
the
is
general.
against the rules of ARPA. So that is the point, right? It is your revenue loss. It goes into
But we could have put it in
your
a
general
separate
fund.
account. It could have still been in the general ledger, it could have been a separate account, and every time we used something from ARPA, we could have tracked what we used.
Council
Instead of putting
Chair?
it all in there.
Council
and-
Chair?
It's unnecessary, but
Council
yes, you
Chair.
could have. But
It
it's
was-
unnecessary because it just goes into your general
I
fund.
know, I know. I don't think it's
Chair, the-
unnecessary because we would have got a better understanding of where we've used this money that was supposed to go to the public, at the end of the
Council
day.
Chair, the administration said that every penny is tracked. It has to keep track of, and several times we heard, every penny of this money has to be tracked to the T.
And it has been. So the
Those-
10 million went for revenue loss, and that's what we
But
report to the
That should be broken
state
down, what that everything is. I mean, 10 million, that's a lot of money.
by the rules of the grant, which the 10 million is for revenue loss. And again, if you want to see it, you can see it on what your revenue loss has been. We have had revenue loss of about $2 million, $3 million each year in the courts alone. So there has been losses. And
You have how much in court losses?
about $1 million to $2 million in revenues each year. So
And
I
do you
don't
know
know
his courts?
by heart,
So-
but I know that we've had revenue
Council
losses
Chair?
consistently year to year.
One more second.
So,
So you're saying in between $1 million to $2 million in our courts loss?
yes.
Yeah, they took away traffic.
So-
The traffic bureau, of course, they're not gonna have revenue.
So again, that's what your expenses have been going to. They've been offsetting the revenue losses that we've had as a city.
So, Council
should
Chair,
be
I have
in
a
here.
question. So we paid BLN to literally give us 4 categories that are available on the government's website? Is that what we paid them 200,000 for?
Well, we give them up, so far they have up to expected 200,000. We've only given them 79,000.
Well, whatever it may be, to give us what's literally available on this, on the U.S. Economic and Development
That's-
Administration's website?
That's not entirely true, sir. So the task that I have now is we're going for federal grants, and we're looking for documentation to support that, and that's what they're preparing for us. It is not something that I could have gotten over the website. So they're preparing the qualification-based bid for grant projects that we need to spend under the ARPA. So I'm using them for that, and that's within their contract.
Mr. D, with respect, I'm literally on their website. It says find funding opportunities and grants and everything's right on here. But don't we
Okay,
have,
you don't have the
grant,
staff to do that, sir. You
but don't we
the
have,
staff.
what's their name,
The
what's
Funding
the
Scout,
for the grants?
yes, but they prepare documentation. Funding Scout finds that they're preparing the documentation to support the Funding Scout, but only ARPA related. I'm only giving them ARPA. So for these projects, the 14,114, I have 4 projects that identified to spend, to use ARPA money. I'm using them to provide the documentation because that's what they're in contracts for.
Yeah,
Hold on,
Councilman Ahmad.
Council, one more question I have about the tracking of this money. So when we do, budget season's right around the corner. When you want a balanced budget, you really can't include the ARPA money in it because you can't be dependent on that money. And if they're not tracking that money, that's an issue of its own because to balance the budget, that money's in the general fund. But where is it going? And how do you know what department or what sections of the city are using it or not if there's no way to track it?
No, there isn't.
So it's $10 million in the budget. We're gonna remove the $10 million. We can't every year depend on $10 million because once that money's used, it's gone.
Correct.
But where, this $10 million, we're saying we're using it on revenue loss. We set $2 to $3 million in courts. Well, the courts took losses because of policing issues in the city. There wasn't officers writing tickets. They got rid of the traffic bureau.
That was way before that happened. So again, you can see historically the trends of the city and revenue and how it's been dropping since COVID started, which again, that's why they gave us this money as part of revenue loss is because if we didn't have it, our general fund would be depleted.
But we have $2 to $3 million accounted for the courts. What's the other money accounted for?
Again, salaries, utilities, anything that the city needs.
Can we get a
And the
breakdown of
way-
that money?
They don't know.
Again, it's part of your general fund, so each
But I
year
understand,
when
but how are
you
you
approve
supposed to
the
balance
budget.
your budget in the general fund if you don't know where this money is?
Because
because
it's
you
part of your
project-
general fund,
But
Wallace.
you project, right?
It's part of your general fund. So again, the way that you track that money is through your budgets. So if you're taking too much money out of your general fund to balance your budget, that's where that money is going. It's going to all of your expenses that you approve every year with every budget, with every budget.
Mariana, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you on that.
It's $10 million just out
If
there.
we didn't have that $10 million, would you say the city would have no money? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it would slowly be depleting itself, yes.
So
The
can you-
the general fund would be depleting
so
itself.
you cannot tell me how much money we have from the ARPA money remaining?
No.
14 million Right there.
No.
No,
that's-
out of
that's
the
what it
10
says.
million.
First
Of the
page.
10 million, of the 10
Oh.
million, well, not even the 10 million, because we took 2.4 the year before to balance our budget. So technically, we went in with 7 point and some
Six.
change.
Yep.
And then
So of the
2
7.6, we lost $2 million there, you're saying, of revenue losses to the fire department, I mean, to the courts. We used $3 million towards the golf course to fix up the greens and do all the renovations. Yeah, these are, I know it all went to the general ledger, but those are the discussions, yes.
So you
The
took
council
in-
voted on that.
You took in 10 million from revenue loss, right? Last year, you had, if you didn't have revenue loss of 10 million, you would have had a net of expenditures over revenue of about 3.3 million. Now that.
You said we started off with $10 million in the hole?
No, I'm sorry. You started, so at the end of 2023, you had a fund balance increase of 6.7 million. That includes that $10 million.
Hang on.
Right, so right now, I'm at with what we're guessing, excuse me, through council, through the chair. So I've added up 6.4 million, so technically we'd have 3.6 million left.
Where was the 6.4?
Well,
I'm
you
sorry.
guys said we took the 2.4 million to balance, correct?
Oh.
Correct.
We took the 2 million, not 3, to the courts, roughly.
Okay,
That puts us at 4.4. Then we took almost 3 million to the golf course, you said?
correct.
So that puts us at 6.4. Out of the
Okay.
10 million, there's 3.6 million left.
You're double counting though, because what I'm saying, the
I mean,
2.4.
my math is
No.
pretty accurate to 10 million.
Council Chair, with all due
I
respect, we don't even
understand.
have data in front of us.
I know,
So we're
but
just
I-
talking.
But I mean, how am I
out of
doubling
the
my
blue.
numbers? I'm not saying there's 20 million in
I mean,
losses.
do you have any data? Like, do you have anything from the controller or the treasurer, all the stuff? I mean, I know you're here,
So-
but do you have a computer that you see numbers?
So
or-
last year's financial statements, when you got those just recently from the auditor, you increased fund balance by 6.7 million. Because of the 10 million. Yes, so 3.3 million of that was what you would have lost had you not had the 10 million ARPA. So does that mean that all of it was ARPA? Some of it could have been used from your general fund balance. It doesn't mean that it all came from ARPA spending.
I'm not understanding. that.
Right.
It means we were like 3.3 million in the hole.
If
We
you
put the
didn't have
10
$10 million.
in.
They didn't put 10 million in though.
They put,
We
first
did.
one, we
Because
put
they-
2.2
No,
million.
because the year before, we put 2.4, guys, before we even hired Plant Moran.
I understand
In
what you're saying.
2021, 2022 budget year, we used, when David Saputo was here, guys, 2.4, that was a way before, 2.2, I'm sorry. Way before, Plant Moran Gap was with us.
That's right when we got the money.
So now we're at, do the math. What's the math of 2.2? That's
7.8.
7.8. Now we have 7.8
Yeah, we put it last year.
that we put in, but really, we only put in 6.4, you're saying.
So
Right?
when-
6 point, actually with paying, I'm sorry, playing with BLN was 7, now let's say 6.5 million. There's, and our numbers are fairly close, you're saying, but you're telling me I'm doubling, my digits, you equal out to
So-
3 point, technically, so with 3.5 million.
Yes. So you spent 3.3 million of fund balance last year if you did not have the $10 million. What you're talking about with David Sabuda, he did the 23-24 budget, or I'm sorry, 22-23 budget. Sorry.
21, 22. We had King, Cynthia King.
King that
She
did
did-
22, 23.
She did the 23-24, this current budget. He did the 22-23.
That's true.
So when he asked for that 2.8 million to cover fund balance, that was in the 22-23 budget. Yes, but then they came back the same fiscal year, 23.
Yeah, but you were doing the following year.
Then
Okay.
they came back and asked for an amendment to take in the other 7.8. So all that 10 million happened in 1 year. It just happened one part at budget time, one part as an amendment.
Council Chair,
Councilman Wenzel.
thank you. Of the $24 million, how much were we allowed for unrestricted?
10 million.
Okay, but revenue loss is one of the things that are allowed, right?
Revenue
Not
loss
outside
is,
the unrestricted.
revenue loss is the only unrestricted allowable use of ARPA.
Okay, so revenue loss is not allowed in the regular criteria for what you can use the money for. It falls into the unrestricted category.
There are four categories. Three are restricted as to their use. The fourth is revenue loss, which is unrestricted except for it has to be used for the provision of government services. So they're all ARPA eligible. It's just that one category is not restricted uses.
Okay. We gave out some checks at the end of the year to our PTOM employees.
Yes, those went in, those were from your general fund balance.
That was
Those
supposed to
weren't
be from the
ARPA.
ARPA funds also. That was, yeah, that's what.
So was that money used from
Yeah,
the,
that's what we-
from the 10 million that was left?
That was used from your general fund balance.
You know, I see what's happening here. We asked you, could ARPA, potentially, yeah, or it could have been the money that we levied, or it could be with, I get what
It
you're
could
saying.
be, yeah.
What we're trying to understand, comprehend, and you're giving me an answer,
Yeah.
I don't know, it came out of the general fund. I know it came out of the general fund, the money where the $10 million went into. What we're trying to ask, I'm not trying to get emotional on this, but I'm trying to make the ask to you as, we know it went into the general ledger. We know that potentially there was $3 million in the general ledger, and then we added $10 million after the 2.8, which adds up to $13 million. What the question we're trying to ask, in that 1 year then, to maybe make it easier, simplify it for you, in that 1 year, what have we used outside of the losses from the police, from the courts, because that's the most drastic number that I've heard is $2 million. Which I'm gonna look into this 2 million or 2.3 or whatever this
million.
number is. That's a lot of money for revenue loss from our courts. So basically, our courts are not making money, and that the taxpayers are having to continue to protect and look out for the courts. Is this something that's happened in the last 10 years, or is this something that recently just started happening? And is this because of COVID, because people weren't driving? I understand, I get it, people were working from home. Maybe we're not issuing tickets. Is that continuing to happen? Is it still happening? Because the last I checked, I mean, COVID, according to the CDC, is no different than the flu. So I think people are back into the office, people are working. My question is, are we still seeing this revenue loss? And are we going to continue to see this revenue loss from the courts? Then, where's the mistake here?
Council Chair, but where is the revenue loss coming from the court? Is it because the court has revenue because of citations, ordinance violations, cases? I mean, you can't say the losses are from COVID still.
It's a great question. Any other questions? Councilman Ahmad, I know you had one.
Yeah, thank you, Council Chair. So I totally understand, we moved the 10 million to the general funds. So when we moved the 7.8 million, you said we cannot call it restricted, we can call it committed. So this committed money, can it be spent, or is it in a committed account that cannot be touched?
It was already spent.
The
The 700,000, not the 10
Oh,
million.
the
700,000.
700,000.
We said it's committed.
No, that would be in your general account.
Okay.
But in the financial statements, it'll be in a line that is called committed
So
fund
it cannot be
balance.
touched, like we couldn't use it for any loss of revenue.
The only way you could use it for any other purpose, that 700,000, would be to uncommit it as a council body.
Okay, that's great. So do we have proof that hasn't been touched? And it's still in the committed section? Is it in the committed section? I mean, we're assuming now it's in the committed section.
Yes,
We
so
did-
as long as you.
You're sure about the 100%?
Yes, you don't move it to a separate bank account or anything. It would just be shown on your financial statements as committed fund
It's
balance.
still in the same account.
No, I
Yes.
understand, but I mean.
And
I'm
as
just
long
saying,
as you have fund
Do you remember
balance-
that, like 100% about the number, or you're just saying, you're assuming because we said it's committed, so the people did, the treasurer or the controller did put it in a separate account?
It will 100% be as
I
committed
mean, have
fund
you seen it
balance.
yourself, or
Well,
has it been done, or you just saying
The
because we?
financial statements haven't been issued until June.
Okay, so we don't know yet, so that's what I'm
So-
saying, that's what I'm trying to get to. What's that? Can you check into it to make sure it's,
Well, in June.
Please, at the mic. Let's do it at the mic.
Keep in mind, we have an accounting system that we use every day. Every day something happens, we record it, we adjust. So that money sitting in the committed account sits in the committed account until we get to the end of the year and we actually issue, Alan C. Young comes before you, and he issues the financial statement. So it is there, Councilman, it's sitting there.
thank you, sir. No, no,
Yes, sir.
I truly respect
sir.
where you're coming from.
Yes, sir.
Where I'm coming from, this council body did pass resolution before, but it was not followed. So my question is, can you double check if when we passed that resolution to be in a committed account, was it followed and was it sent to be in a committed account?
Yes, sir.
If you can,
I-
please. I know
yes,
you
sir, I
weren't
can
here,
double
so
check
if you can
that.
just double check.
Yes,
And
sir.
I think that 7.8 million was transferred in the fall of 2023 or summer of 2023. It wasn't 2022. We transferred the 2.2 million in 2022, but the rest of the money was transferred in 2023, and that's exactly when Councilman Wenzel asked for the 700,000, and it was,
Yeah, but it went for the budget though of,
That was 22-23 fiscal year. Remember, July through June.
correct.
His resolution was in July, I believe, of '23,
Correct,
which that is the 23-24 fiscal year.
correct.
So-
So that's when we transferred the 7.8 million to the general funds.
The 7.8 million was in the 22-23 fiscal year. That was in the spring of '23.
Council
I
Chair?
could be mistaken, but
yes,
that's right.
Councilman.
I'm sorry, just before since we have that 700,000 in the committed account, so what's the difference between that 700,000 and the 1 million that's going to pay essential workers in premium pay? Is that the same
You
type kind of thing?
You could use that in that bucket instead, yes. But it's still committed in, you, so
No,
what
I'm saying, I don't
happens
want to
now?
pay it twice, I don't want to double pay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, the only difference that I see, which is why you might want to keep that 700 there instead of using it for essential pay, is that essential pay is also very restricted to emergency workers. So I know that Mr. Wenzel wanted to give it to TPOIM employees. Not all TPOIM employees would qualify under emergency and essential workers. So that is what the concern is, because they're very strict with regards to who is an essential worker. And although, the accounting department was here, they're not necessarily emergency essential workers. So that is why the restriction is valid until we can come up with who exactly qualifies as essential workers.
So some of the 700,000 could be used for those who they didn't assume were essential. And this one that we label as essential can be used. So technically, we can split up that 700,000.
Yes,
What about that?
and you could also split it, right? You could be like, okay, so we're going to use essential workers from police and fire, which we know do qualify under the essential workers category for premium pay. And then anyone else that you want to use that didn't qualify, you could use the money that was restricted by Mr. Wenzel.
Mr. Wenzel, I know you had some questions.
Yeah, couple of things. The two resolutions that I made with the 700,000 and the checks to the TPOM workers at the end of the year, during the conversation, it was specified that these come from unrestricted funds, not out of the general area that qualify for ARPA monies. So that's what I was saying. Now, we have $14 million left. Right now, we have 14 million left.
That's correct,
That's
yes.
in there, and that's in our
Yes.
our general ledger.
No, that's in the restricted.
Yeah, that is in your unearned revenue, so it's
revenue, yep.
restricted right
It's
now.
restricted, but
Yes.
it's in the ledger, right?
It's in the general ledger
Yeah.
as unearned revenue.
So, so 14 million, and I guess we have some infrastructure issues or something we're gonna spend on with that money? What is that, what is that total of the infrastructure? I see it here,
Do you want me to move along here?
what was it?
Oh, you're right behind me, perfect.
It's, you got 13 million and 7 million, so that's 20 million, that's way over 14 million. I know it says cash share 10 million, so
Yep.
we're using all 14 million of that dollars?
Yes, sir.
It's kind of allocated already?
Yes, sir.
Sort of spent
So-
already?
So the 14,114, if you look at this slide, it will show you where it's going to. It's going to 2387 for the two projects that we talked about earlier. That's the local share for the water meters and the lead line and meters and mains. And then 10,726,990 is ARPA compliant. And then 1 million is our emergencies workers. So that will be a total of 14,114,463.
Council Chair.
Councilwoman Breyer.
Yeah, is that infrastructure including CSO 41? Money's going to that?
Yes, so the CSO, yes, we still have some money, not enough to do the entire, but yes. So what we did when we applied for all these grants, some of them, like if you recall, we have some money left over from the old bond. Old bond do not expire. I had to use this. So if you look at the remaining 21 bond, there's 7709812. Those dollars are in the bank. They do not expire, unlike ARPA. So I was using the stuff that must be used before expiration or go to the federal government. Use that first. and then keep it.
That's a good,
Approach?
yeah, that's a good approach.
Thank you, sir.
But it's got to be allocated by December of this year. Why
Yes,
don't we,
sir.
instead of using only ARPA funds, why don't you use the 2.38, the
Yeah.
2.3 and the 7.7
Yeah.
of ARPA funds, and then keep the remaining CIP bonds? Or,
Yeah, because.
since we're not, we're not being told when to spend the 7.7. Let me,
Absolutely, and that's,
One quick
that's part of the plan of finance. It's all part of the same thing. So
why don't we, do we have a plan also for some of our roads? I know we've done some, we've had some repairs on
Yes.
Silvery Lane.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, do we have a plan for some more streets in the city of Dearborn Heights? Because some of
Yes.
them are just,
So for the first time, we have the PACER program completed for the entire city, and now we have it on the wall, so we actually have the rating on all the street, every street in the city. And we are taking the Act 51 money, and I'm sitting down with this lady to try to find out major, local, and we have them all categorized with rating on every street. And then we're going to start this year by taking anything that is 3 and below and put them on the replacement schedule, and then move on every year. So next year maybe 4, and then rating 5. So we do have a plan. There's a capital plan, yes.
thank you, Mr. Deeb.
Chair.
Yep, Councilman,
Mr.
Saab.
Deeb,
Yes, sir.
I'll go back to these water meters. I remember word for word verbatim, said we got the state covering 100%. And we get last week with Great Trim and Funding Scott, they said, well, it's only 50%. So with all the grants we're getting, and we say we got approved or we got a commitment to them, can we ensure that the amounts that are coming that are the actual amounts? Because right now, this $10 million that we're gonna pour, $14 million we're gonna put through, we could have put it in other places. It's just, if this money wasn't here right now, we'd never fix the meters. We'd have
That's true.
to bond out.
So absolutely. And the same is true for the rest of the project. The CSO is the same way. So when, let me just start by saying water meters have never been approved by drinking water for any city that I know of. That is not an approved expense. If you were to apply for a grant to replace your water meters, I can assure you, you will not be approved. The reason we got approved is because we mixed it with the lead line replacement. After the issue with Flint a couple of years back, the state is pretty sensitive about lead water service, extremely sensitive. So to qualify the project, we mixed the two together, justifying them that I'm going to be in the basement, I can do both at the same time, which is other city. That put us up. So when they awarded the grant, it was a total for both. And initially, it would have done the entire meters, but you can't. We promised that we're going to do lead line replacement. So the two funding became one grant. And they said, yes, we will fund it. However, the reason they're funding that 50% is because of the lead line replacement. So it is one project for all intended purposes. So when we go out to replace them, I'll be looking for lead service line for safety, and then meters for operation. They consider meters, water meters, as an operating expense. That's you. You operate. This is not a grant. Lead water is a grant. Anything that is safety related, quality of water, yes. Water meter is not a quality-based project.
Council
Sorry.
Chair. I know we want
that's
to
how
wrap this
they-
up, but
One second. Are you done? Councilman
Yeah.
Saab? Councilman Watson.
I want to follow up on Councilman Saab's question. It's a two-parter. When did COVID officially end, where you can stop taking money for, and when did we stop taking money out of the courts? Because we can't continue to take COVID money from the courts losses. So the COVID ended like a year ago, right? Technically, officially?
So
So we shouldn't take any COVID money to help the courts out anymore.
the unrestricted 10 million isn't really tied to when COVID ended. It's really just to provide government services to get you through from when COVID first started until now, really, until the end of '24 this year.
So you can, okay, so
So, yeah,
right.
that's why they sunsetted it in '24
even though COVID's not a factor anymore with the losses in the courts, we can still use it to supplement the losses.
through '24, yeah.
Council Chair.
Thank you.
Of course.
Councilman Saab.
I want to, back to the courts thing, it's, again, it's $3 million, a lot of money to go to the court. for
I think
this
she
money.
said between 1 and 2 million.
No, 2 to 3 million.
1 to 2.
2 to 3 so far, they said that.
Did you say 2 to 3 or 1 to 2?
Every year, so it's been 3 years, so it's 2 to 3 million.
Oh, that's what you're saying, 2 to 3 million. As total spent.
But piggybacking off of Councilman Winsall's question, so are we losing money to the court because of COVID? Or are we losing money to the court because we don't have we have a half-staff police department? Which one is it? And are we allowed to use that money towards the court because of that issue? Because you're saying the money's so restricted on how we can use it. But is it because that's a legitimate question, when did COVID end? Because if we're still basing the losses on COVID, which I know we're not, it's our officers, we're gonna have the manpower to write the tickets.
Again, I'm sorry that you got stuck on the courts. That's just one of the largest ones that I've noticed. Again, there's no way of knowing what is the cause. It's just a consequence of what happened when COVID started. It's a combination of ordinance, police, courts, everything, people not showing up, et cetera. So it's just a combination of everything. Do I believe that the decline is still there? Yes. Will it still be there in the upcoming years? Yes.
Why?
That is a great question, but again, every city is noticing it, and it's simply a fact of life of what's happened. So again, we have to continue to explore different ways of increasing revenue, whether that is updating our ordinance tickets or increasing our fines for renters, I don't know, whatever it is, right? But you have to continue to see what the cost of inflation is and how to generate revenue in the
Issuing more
city.
tickets on the road.
Again,
Or
a
issue
traffic
more
unit
tickets
that
on the
can.
road.
Council Chair.
Council,
But again, it's hard to combine both because it's not just one thing. It's not about the police. It's a combination of the structure of a city as a whole.
Okay. So my question is back for the courts. And we have thank you for your service, sir, and thank you for being here. Have you guys been writing as much tickets recently as
Hold
in
on,
the
Haas,
past?
we're not answering
But-
that.
but- hold-
Guys,
No,
come
no,
on.
but
I can
honestly, we
answer-
don't.
I can answer.
Hold on, Roger, I'm not done
Roger.
yet. Hold on.
Please. Haas, we're not asking that. Please, sir, don't ask that.
So, and it's a legitimate question. You guys are arguing here that this money is so restricted. What's the losses from the court? Are you putting it on paper and account that we're losing it because of COVID?
Nothing from the audience, please.
This is an honest
The $10
question.
million,
Council Chair. may-
He wasn't done, Council,
I thought he
Roger,
was.
please.
One second.
the $10 million, as Council Chair said, is not really intended to directly replace certain revenues. It's 10 million to be used as the provision of government services. So whether you lost revenue or not, you have the 10 million because it's a standard allowance.
So,
I just want to tell you, just
Hold
correction
on,
for,
hold
I just want to make a correction. What Council Chair actually
No,
stated
hold-
was, what I was saying is, you guys dropped the ball by just putting it all in the general ledger and not putting in a separate account, which can still be used. Now, I'm not saying restricted, a separate, and then every time we use some of it, we could have documented it. So when residents, or it was FOIA, or we wanted to know, we could have explained exactly where, like right now, Mr. Deeb is telling us exactly where that 14 million is gonna go. You can't tell me exactly, because I know we keep saying it went to, the
The
general
standard
law.
allowance. Yeah.
We dropped the ball is what really happened.
so Council Chair, this is $10 million. And I'm doing the math and how much revenue loss we had and the $10 million, based on the rate we're going, the city's gonna be negative because that money's gonna run out. So if we're using $1 million a year verbatim, which you said on average, for the court alone, where are we gonna come up with that money? And when is that money gonna run out? If there's no balance for it, now you're shaking your head. If you guys aren't balancing or questioning where that money's going, where are we using that money? Where's the rest of the money coming from? Because the city is claiming we're broke.
It's a good question to.
But that's a
tackle at
question,
budget time.
but that's what we have you professionals, we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to your firm for this.
When you guys do your budget, is a great time to look at that.
Right, but when we get our budget, it's based on your guys' information that you pass over. But you're telling me that here's $10 million, everybody has an open checkbook in the city for it.
Spot on.
Council Chair.
Hang on one second, guys.
It's fine.
And again, now I'm concerned about this money for the courts. That if we're paying $1 million lost every single year, and this money, we're saying that we can't invest in infrastructure, we can't give it to certain employees, but we can write off $1 million a year to the court, just verbatim to the 20th District Court, to the Justice Center.
Again, it's not to the court, is when your budget as a whole
For the
is
court.
completed,
You said the largest revenue loss that we had that you
Is to the
remember is
that
what?
I remember, right? But that doesn't mean it's the only one. There's revenue losses in the building department, there's revenue losses everywhere.
So how much of that went to the building
So it's a combination
department?
of everything.
But that's an honest question, though. $10 million are unaccounted for.
It's part of your budget, so
And-
again.
And I'm asking for a breakdown for that right now. We're here, we're trying to figure out what money we have, and you're telling me wait until the budget. Now, when the budget comes around, you're gonna tell us, well, we're gonna have record of it.
It's okay, Hassan. I'm gonna wrap this one up. I'm gonna see what Roger wants.
I
Please,
was
your
just going
mic.
to say, Council Chair, that I wasn't prepared to, we're actually putting the stats together next week, but we had 80 tickets written yesterday. We've had 78 drunk driving tickets written over the last 79 days since the start of the year. Our statistics on stolen vehicles is up 300%. The stolen cars have dropped, but we'll have the stats next week. But as to the court issue, I would talk to Michelle Atkins so we can get accurate, because as Mariana said, there's a tremendous amount of factors that go into this over the last 4 years from COVID and forward. But we've made strident efforts to increase our officers, and I think the results are tremendous. And we'll present it next week to see the growth for the city.
I have one question for
One
Roger.
second.
I'm sorry.
Sure. Councilman Constance next.
Okay, just let me answer. So Roger, if you gave me all those statistics about how many traffic speeding tickets were issued in the past
I'd
month.
say about yesterday, out of the 80, probably 60 out of the last month. I will have the stats for March 27th, next week.
Can you
And I
get-
will answer your question.
Can you
And I
give me
can
the
have
stats for the
director-
past 3 years?
Yeah, actually, they can.
Yep.
We will have all the stats next week. You can see the stats. In fact,
And-
I've gone over, because we're looking at increasing our warrants, and as they've done in some other cities where they have the officers going out, collecting and prosecuting on the warrants, outstanding warrants that are out there. I'm looking at the whole, in fact, I had a meeting this afternoon before I came here on how to raise our costs, like for drunk driving, instead of 150 we charge now, how we can get that up. We're looking at all
Speeding.
our ordinance, we did ordinance violations last May, but we're doing the others, CFOs, things like that, to raise revenues, stuff that we're missing, that we'll talk with anyone of you who want to sit with us and look at it. We're looking at raising all those fines, costs, and everything else to help benefit the city. We're not realizing a lot of stuff we could be collecting, but we just had a meeting at 4 this afternoon before I came here on that issue.
So a great solution would be to actually bring in more money. I think is hire more cops, a lot more cops that we had on the road to issue tickets
Well-
in our neighborhoods, and people that are on every highway, every neighborhood street in our city is a highway. I mean, and you can put those fines up. I mean,
As I stated last week, we are doing that, but also this country is changing and policing is changing. And like I said, when my brother was
We should pay our officers
prosecuted,
more.
my brother prosecuted a gang leader who's now a lawyer, went to Columbia. But that kind of policing, the community is involved. And I started community prosecution in Wayne County with 2001. So I think there's other ways in addition to increasing the numbers.
Thank you. Roger, guys, we're getting way off topic right now. And it's a great topic and it's a great discussion. It's just not I want to know how the ARPA money is being spent. And we can have the discussion about things that we agree and disagree with right now. But I don't want to spend too much, time on this. I agree, Councilman, on many of the things that you stated here. And Roger, I'm glad to hear that we've issued 80 tickets in one day. I think we used to do like 200 in one day, but let's pick that. We're going we're going north. We're heading north. We're still down south, but we're moving north. Mr. Deeb.
Yes, sir.
Or Michelle, from Plant Moran Gap. I'm gonna have to agree one more with my colleague, Councilman Saab, on this. We pay Plant Moran a lot of money. We're not just giving them a lot of money to reconcile our books. Which I know we held off on some of the pays because we're not getting a description of what you guys are doing. But really, it's alarming and somewhat disappointing that nobody can tell us exactly where this $10 million. It's very simple. I can tell you how it's gonna be easy broken down. We had $3 million before you dropped it in there. Let's just say I'm hypothetical numbers right now. There's $3 million in there. We brought in the 7.8 because all the 2 million. We'll call it 10 million in a whole, right? What has increased so much more than the past years that have shown us what we've spent? It's a very, very easy solution. I mean, I think with you guys' expertise, you guys can give the council a somewhat breakdown of where this money is going. But to say things like, they went everywhere. They went to the building department. They went here, or they went to the courts. It's not an answer, guys. I'd say it's disappointing that we're even having that discussion. And really, I don't need an answer right now. But I think ultimately, with you guys' expertise, you guys are the professional. I mean, Plant Moran is at the ultimate top, and I respect you guys. I really, truly do. All I'm asking is that you can actually provide this data, this information properly to the council.
The problem is with that, and I'm not arguing at all, but the problem is when you put it in the revenue loss category, you can use it for the provision of any government services. We could say that you used all 10 million last year on operating expenses.
I know you can say that. What I want to be able to do, though, is what changed.
Well, you can say what changed. You can go line by line.
I don't want to say what changed. I'm saying to us, I want you guys to explain to us what has changed. Like, we had $3 million. If we didn't have that $10 million, we would have caught a lot of fat, and we would have never been doing anything. Or we would be in a really bad position, and today they probably wouldn't be a city. But obviously, we didn't go that route. We made changes. We spent more money. We knew we had the money. Just tell us where it went. Mr. Deeb's nodding his head. I think he understands me. You may not click it, be click. Do you understand me, Mr. Deeb, on that, what I'm asking?
I understand that you'd make decisions differently if you had less money. Everybody would do that, right? If you're going broke, you're not going to spend as much. But you can't say right now, like, what categories would you have not have spent if you didn't have the revenue?
Well, I mean, if we have revenue losses from the courts of $2 million and we didn't have it last year, that would be a great explanation to the council. Well, here of this, we've spent $3 million so far. I'm just giving you a hypothetical based on the information that was, that Mariana remembers her recollection. Is that one of the higher ones was the courts?
If you want to see how much revenue you lost from last year to this year, you can do that. If you have a benchmark of like pre-COVID to this year, like, I don't know what your starting number is.
I just want to see non-traditional money spent. Like, where are this non-traditional money going? Because it's non-traditional money that we received. Is there any non-traditional money that we spent it towards?
Council Chair, I think I narrowed it down. So you've got this box, a $10 million box, and then you like a breakdown of where the $10 million was assigned to and what. I agree. I'm sorry, I'm not an accountant. I mean, I'm just overseeing the project. So, but I see the point. Yes, it just okay, that's fair.
Council Chair.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap this meeting up. So Councilman Leswan. And Councilwoman Breyer will be after.
So two things. Number one was the number one commitment was some of this money was to the Ecorse Creek.
That's my point.
Yes,
Not a dollar's been spent out of that money,
zero of it.
correct?
So,
I think the entire council agreed totally unanimously.
Out of the five
okay.
items, that was number one.
Water sewers. Where's the water sewer? Where's the water sewer for the Ecorse Creek? It's not water sewer, it's flood mitigation. We have other sources for flood mitigation. On your council agenda on Tuesday, you're gonna get authorization. Let me finish, please. It is, I'm trying to stay within the qualification. It is not that the Ecorse Creek is not on our radar, it is. And we're actively looking for every funding source for on Tuesday, next Tuesday, you're going to have a resolution to authorize. I've got the Corps of Engineers already. If you recall, a year ago, exactly in March of '23, we gave them 1.7 million grant, and they're actually proceeding to design, and they're looking for us to authorize access to the site. So we are looking at both, working with the county for the immediate cleanup and also keeping an eye on the ultimate solution, which is the big incinerator site. So it is not fair to say that we're dropping it. We didn't.
No, Mr. D, by no means did I say you dropped it. What I said is the administration misled us by saying that this money from ARPA is going to be used for the Ecorse Creek. I'm not saying you, by no means did I say you. The administration, then it's recorded. These are meetings. They said that this money was going to be used for some of this money, not all of it, I'm sorry, that was going to be used for the Ecorse Creek. Well, my thing is that I'm just boggled by this with this $10 million that right now we depend on this. So this $10 million right now, technically, questions for Plan Moran is that it's in our budget. We have $10 million our budget. Again, we can't depend on this money because it's technically gone. So right now, when we run out of this $10 million, we can't touch the $14 million. So what do we start doing? Laying people off? What I'm trying to figure out is that what departments took this money? Who used this money, who had overtime, whatever it may be. Because when this money runs out, how is the city going to fund people's positions? I mean, if there's no ledger of showing of how we're spending it, it's just right now, we're technically spending it recklessly, is what it is. It's an open
You do have
checkbook.
currently 17 million in your fund balance at the end of the last fiscal year's audit. So that includes, obviously, the $10 million.
No, hold on. We don't have $10 million in there. We don't. No, we've
They've
used,
already been allocated.
they've been allocated to the courts and so on.
You have 17 million in your fund balance, of which 10 million of that was the ARPA revenue. Yes.
Okay? So where are we going to come up with the revenue loss that we're going to incur the next year, the year on?
So that's the thing. So you're not going to include that $10 million revenue in this year's budget. You wouldn't have included it in this current year's budget as well. So you're
technically
currently,
speaking, as an accountant or a CPA,
yeah.
we would have to start cutting jobs or cutting, fed off the city to save money.
You would look to, if you do have a fund balance deficit, or not deficit, net of expenditures over revenues, then you would have to look to cut expenditures or use fund balance. And eventually, yes, if you keep using fund balance, it will go away.
So this is my last question. So right now, me asking you, out of the $10 million revenue loss we took, how much money is still available out of that $10 million? No idea.
You can't, because the 10 million, you have more than 10 million in fund balance still.
Because it got mixed with other money.
I understand.
You have 17 million in fund
But we're
balance.
still
as
using
of-
the number
Yeah, but that's
10
'cause we're in a-
million.
we moved out of it, we went into a pool account though, so you gotta be careful because some of that $10 million are from different accounts that at one point used to be in different accounts and restricted accounts. We've opened up a bunch based on your guys' recommendation.
The 17 million is solely general fund money
Okay, where is that general fund money coming from?
from your property taxes, state shared revenue, revenue loss from ARPA,
Is the
your
city,
sanitation levy.
is the city right now financially healthy, minus the 10 million?
If you take away the 10 million, I mean, the 10 million's there, it's in fund
But
balance.
it's not, because you're taking that money and we're paying off losses. And we keep using the same exact number. It's basic math, though. If you're minusing $1 million a year, again, we're going to keep using the courts, and I'm sorry for this. Technically, we're at 9 million. Because we're not, if we're generating an extra $1 million, we should be at 11 million.
But if you're gonna be technical, 2.2 were transferred the year before, so we only transferred 7.8 last year.
But that's what I'm
So you're
saying.
still
So the
talking about
past-
10 million, but there's no 10 million.
But no, they're saying there is, and that's why I'm
But
asking.
there isn't, that's what I'm saying. I
So
mean,
we can't
just
depend on
start.
always say there's 10 million in the.
Can I maybe, Mariana, you can help us on this. I know you're nodding your head a lot, but I wanna, yeah. What I'd like, maybe if it's okay with you, through the Roger or the mayor, maybe our comptroller, Plant Moran Gap, Mr. Deep, help us. All we're asking is, we have questions we'd like answers. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna hold off on this meeting. Maybe we can give some more information. Maybe you can help give us some data And then we can come a little bit more prepared with not just, this is what you had, this is what we're potentially spending it on. We don't know what happened to the 10 million. Terrible.
So I think a good way that it's going to help all of us understand where the money has been going is during the budget season. So each year we do a presentation where we do a little pie
Well,
chart
I'm
with
trying to-
all of the categories that the money has been spent towards. So I think that's very
So-
helpful. And Mr. Saab, yes, we have to be very careful with our funding because if you recall last year, we have way more needs than we have funding available for. Last year, we cut out all capital improvements that the directors requested. And as we know, we need new vehicles, we need new buildings, we need new roofs, we need new roads. And yes, we have way more needs than we have money available. So during the budget season, we have to be careful with that. We just we just provided salary increases for most of our union employees. That is going to be a big hit in next year's budget too, because as you recall, all of those percentage increases are going to apply for the next 3-4 years, and they're going to continue. And we have to be careful with how we budget because the revenues aren't increasing at the rate that expenses are. So definitely, we have to pay attention in the budget, pay attention to those categories of where the money's going, and make a decision as a whole of what categories are the most important ones that we have to focus on. And that is what the purpose of an entire month of budget season is. So I do recommend that we continue the conversation then.
Council Chair, just one question. of that.
I want to wrap this up.
That's
This is the
fine.
last one, please.
So you're saying there's a pie chart in the budget season. You guys don't have that pie chart available now of where this money went, so, no? And my second question,
That she's referring to is the costs per department. So for overall budget purposes, not the 10 million.
so secondly, you're saying that we're with great given our unions raises and everything, or should we lay off on hiring certain positions and the hundreds of thousands of dollars every other month if the city's so strained?
That's a great question for the administration. I'm going to let Councilman Constant, and then we're going to wrap this
I'm all
up.
set if we're gonna wrap.
All right, next up, we're going to have comments from the public. This is regarding today's ARPA fund, or if you want to talk about anything. It's comments from the public.
Rachel Lapointe, Merrick Street, Dearborn Heights.
3 minutes, please.
First of all, the meeting was scheduled to start at 6 according to the website.
Thank you.
Pause that real quick. George, I believe we,
I screenshotted and sent it to the clerk. You can view it on the website. I just got the email notification.
okay.
It's an error. I'm sure it's a human error.
Human error.
Thankfully, it's just a study session, right? You're not making big decisions that you're gonna have to re-vote on, right? But I'm just a little frazzled. I do have a thing I looked at earlier. The motions that you guys did for the revenue replacement was over $10 million by 42,769, according to my math. So I think that needs to be looked at because I know that was a hard 10 million cap. And then with the Public Safety Committee, I know you already did the resolution to set aside some money for that. I obviously did not hear the whole meeting because of the calendar issue, but I'm hopeful that we will be able to use that resolution will still hold. I don't understand why we're putting $1 million for bonuses, because when I did some rough math earlier, based on that one resolution that was like 1,500 for police and fire and 1,000 for other employees, I think I capped it at 250,000 total for like 250, 300 employees or something like that. So with a very rough sort of thing like that, I hope that there was a big discussion about that. I'll be watching the meeting, but that's a really big number for bonuses that does not make sense to me.
I agree.
Great, if we're able to give out that much, that's awesome, but if we're giving out that much, it's a little crazy. And then the only other thing was, BLN 200,000, I'm guessing that's how much is actually anticipated to be spent? Great, okay. That's it for now. Whatever
you
other
so much.
questions, I'll bring to the council meeting next week.
Rachel LaPointe,
Thanks,
Merrick
guys.
Street. Anyone on Zoom? Okay, please join us. Just please state your name, the city you reside in, and the street you live on.
Amar, Dearborn Heights, Eaton Avenue. And I'm here to talk about trash day parking, blocking sidewalks, permits to park, retaliation by the police department, and enforcement or lack of it. and this has been an ongoing issue with the city for years. Violation of ordinance created by this body have been ignored due to the two-tier enforcement system within the police department. Children have almost been hit by vehicles on Eaton and Williams. This has been brought up numerous times to the police department. And all this is because of the actions of city staff. And what I mean by it is District 7 employees at Annapolis High School. There have been no regard to ordinances, to parking ordinances or other ordinances. The two-tier enforcement is systematically target people of color in our city, and I brought this up to Director Vanderplow, and he dismissed my concerns. He also instructed officers to not enforce any violations committed by city staff. This is concerning to anyone and everyone who knows about what's been happening to BIPOC people in the south side of the city. Vanderplow has refused to put no parking signs this side of sign in the south side, near Annapolis High School. No parking Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 p.m., similar to all other schools in the city. He called me a liar and falsely reworded ordinances so that he won't hold people accountable. My car, I got boxed in by city staff, and I had to take an Uber to work. He refused, me and him went back and forth on it, until eventually he's like, okay, I had to read out the actual ordinance for him. This body needs to look into this, and should look into it, and I've reached out to the police chief, the directors, the ordinance officers, the mayor's office with no luck. And I think everyone in the city should be treated equally in regards to enforcement and ordinance violations. And thank you.
Council Chair. Hold on, sir.
Hang on one second, guys.
And thank you for coming. And so you live near Annapolis?
Yeah, I live on Eaton and Williams.
Okay, I know right where you live. I live not too far from there. Now, but when you say city employees, of course, you know that the school employees are employed by the Board of Education. They're not city employees. You're saying you've been boxed in by students parking or actual city police cars?
So no, it's actual staff. When I said city staff, I meant District 7 employees.
District 7
Yeah,
employees.
District 7.
Have you reached out to the school board?
I've reached out to them, emailed them back and forth, and it got to the point that we were just going in circles with the board and Vanderplow.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah,
Your house is facing the school.
correct.
Now, you're saying your car is blocked in, meaning they're blocking your actual driveway?
So they're blocked. So I'm parked in front of the house. Besides trash day, I'm parked in front of the house, and they park behind my car, which is a no parking area. You can't park because you're blocking the sidewalk.
And then, so why don't you just, if they're parked behind you, why aren't you moving forward?
So there's other cars, other school staff park right there.
So you're saying you're being blocked in?
Yes.
On both sides?
Correct, yeah. And Vanderplow said there are tighter parking spots in Chicago, and I told him we don't live in Chicago. And that's available. I can email every single one, every single councilman and woman.
Can you share all that information with me? Yeah, I'd like
And
it
this has been
all.
ongoing for years. For 1 year, I stopped, before this administration, I stopped calling in when I mentioned it's selective enforcement in the city, and it was a traffic sergeant. He said that I was being racist against his Irish heritage. And that, as soon as he said that, I stopped calling in for a while, till I got security cameras.
Do you have security cameras to show?
Yeah.
I know you sent an email. I was at work. and
Yeah, no, I have security cameras.
You have proof footage and everything?
Love
Yeah.
to see pictures,
Yeah, I have pictures.
definitely.
And today, actually, when I was sending that email, today I was writing up, I had a meeting, I looked outside, they actually, coincidentally that day, all the district employees were not parking illegally, and they started ticketing all the residents. While last week or the week before, they never issued
Did you
any
get a
tickets.
ticket?
Yeah, me and the neighbors. I have a neighbor right here.
Do you
Another
deserve the
neighbors.
ticket, though?
If it's not enforced equally, no, I don't deserve it.
It's terrible around the schools. People park, it's
Yeah,
on
are
into
you-
the school.
But we requested parking signs like similar to other schools where no parking in this area during school hours, but Vanderplow said,
Hang on one
Yeah.
second. So let me ask you just this. So right now, there was no signs. So was today garbage day for you?
Yes.
So today you were parked on the street, and so you got a ticket for being parked on the street during garbage day?
correct.
I'm
Yeah.
listen, I'm not a double-edged sword.
No, 100%,
I'm
yeah.
one-edged.
Yeah.
You should have been parked on there, you deserve that ticket.
Yeah, 100%.
Now,
Yeah,
if you're telling me on today, coincidentally, that the staff didn't park there, where did they park?
they parked in their parking spot, the parking lot.
So why don't they always park there?
That's a thing for the city, for the police department. Literally, it's an ongoing issue for years.
So tomorrow morning is not garbage day. If
Yep.
I drive by Ian and Williams,
Yep.
I'm gonna see all cars parked there?
Yep,
And nobody in the park, so
Yeah.
what's the point in the parking lot?
I don't know. There's specific cars, and you can look up, I did a FOIA today just to get the CAD information from the police department and all information regarding reports in the area, and we'll see
You
what
think you
happens.
guys received the ticket because you started calling and you were
Oh, yeah,
retaliated
yeah,
against?
with Vanderplow, yeah, 100%. No, specifically Vanderplow. Like, I have the emails, I have the calls
Wow.
with him. And he, like, we were going back and forth about the ordinance, and he was
Understand.
telling me, and also like the light fixtures at the school, they refused to enforce it till I said.
Well, we passed the resolution. I know Mr. Deeb is working on the Joey Smith initiative. Is that
Yeah.
correct? So that's one of them is to enhance the lighting, maybe paint our streets. We have
Yeah.
over $1 million that's gonna go across the entire city of Dearborn Heights, both private, public, all across. I don't think we're gonna spend $1 million, but Mr. Deeb he said he's gonna go on that and he's gonna take it by its horns. So I know that is something that's gonna eventually change. Councilwoman, did you have something?
Councilwoman, you mean?
I said councilwoman.
Oh, me, no.
Okay.
Council Chair, I do.
Be sure to, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Bob.
Be sure and contact the superintendent, the superintendent's office, over at Polk.
I think his name is I'm not sure, but I think it's, is that a new person? Okay.
You should
I
also
remember
connect
his
with
old-
Rachel. She's,
And here's
Someone you wanna
my
reach out to.
card of my,
Council Chair, question for maybe the administration or Corporation Council. Why is Vanderplow dealing with signage or parking signage or anything? Why isn't it engineering or ordinance or DPW? Well, I
Other word,
mean,
how do you get transferred? to
how'd you
the
get
other
transferred
department?
to Vanderplow?
So it started off,
Who connected you
It
with
was
the police
or-
department?
It was ordinance. First of all, it was the police department. They never, like, nothing was going on. And then it transferred over to ordinance. And then I said, I want to do a complaint. And I was emailing the chief and ordinance, the person in charge of ordinance. I have the
Bill
emails.
Bishop. Yeah.
Yes, that's the person. And this was, I think, last year, if not the year before.
Okay.
And then Vanderplow, then I called the mayor's office. They linked me up with Vanderplow. He's like, yeah, I've been trying to reach you. And I'm like, I've never gotten a call from you. And that's how our conversation started. I think we had like a few conversations about it. But there's always, like, I would go through the ordinance with him, and then he'd give me like an excuse as to why.
And you felt mistreated by this
Yeah,
gentleman?
100%. And he specifically said, we do not issue, in the city of Dearborn Heights, we do not issue parking tickets or tickets unless we give them a warning the first time. And I have that, and I'll share it with everyone.
Council Chair, I would ask if respectfully, if we could not do leading questions or things as you just did. And again, this is one side, it's not enough. I haven't talked to Vanderplow about it. So
Yeah.
in your request.
That's our corporation counsel, by the way.
Yeah, no, I have the emails, like whatever I'm saying is
We worked
either an
with
email or
Yeah.
a conversation that was available.
That's not derogatory, right? to me?
No, I'm saying that's our corporation counsel. You represent me as well. Yeah, you represent me, the council as well.
I will talk to Mr.
Yeah.
Vanderplow about it, as I did the last Tuesday when you had a gentleman from River Oaks. We already met and went through that stuff with the water. I will talk to this gentleman soon.
I know,
how often?
guys, I don't want to focus on this no more. Let this conversation be over with. Please, thank you so much. Do me a favor. Can you give your contact information to George?
Okay.
George, can you share that information with myself?
And me.
And actually, share with everybody on council, because I want to get an email of the emails that he has, including Roger and the chief of staff. Thank you. I know she just got back. The chief of staff is awesome. I'm sure, help you guys out. I'm sorry back there, but if you were parked on garbage day, and were you issued a ticket as well?
Yeah, I got a ticket.
Yeah, he doesn't have a driveway, and he has multiple cars, and we tried to get a permit from the city, but no luck.
Well, please, we're going to start your timer. You want to speak up on here? State your name, the city you reside in, the street you live on.
Okay, my name is Mohammed Awais. I live next to my neighbor, Clippert Street in Dearborn Heights. Basically, I live at the corner of the house. I'm next to the school. So in front of my house, there's like a sign, no parking for school days. And thus, I can't park in front of my house. So I only have one parking spot for my car, and another, and the side of my house is the only parking for the rest of my cars.
You have a garage?
No, I don't have a garage.
So where do you park?
On the side. And there's like one car that I'm allowed to park, there's like a, how do I say it, like a street inside, not a street, like, yeah. Yeah, inside my house, but there isn't like a garage.
Or like a little.
Yeah, I like a driveway, yeah, yeah, thank you.
But would you be blocking the sidewalk if you went on there or no?
Yeah. If two cars, yeah, I would be blocking the sidewalk.
Okay, can you do me a favor? I want you not even give your name and number to George. I want you to go directly to Mr. Deeb, because that's an engineering problem. Mr. Deeb, can we help this gentleman out? If he's got nowhere to park, you're saying you don't have a driveway?
I have a driveway, but it's
one
only
car.
allowed for one car. I have more than one car.
He's in a corner.
I'm on a corner in front of my house. There's like a no parking for school, and on the side, that's the only like place where I can park.
You're definitely in a tough situation. I would
Thank
get in
you, I
contact,
appreciate it.
actually, George, get his contact information, share it with Roger as well. Roger, did you hear this gentleman's situation?
Yes, Council Chair, I'll look into it, and George has me information.
Okay. Who cares, guys? We're not having a discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience? Hearing, seeing none here. We're gonna go up to Zoom. George, I think we have Vince. We'll have Vince go, and then we can have Margaret King, and then we'll go to Dana Parrish. Sir, please state your name, the city you reside in, the street you live on.
Vince Trapkowski, Columbia Street. Mr. Chair, members of the council, what I was wondering is if these officers are starting to increase their ticket writing, has the judges and the courts also started to really enforce these tickets and make them stick? So if in other words, if they're not making the tickets stick, we're losing funds. So that's something you can check into. And also, Mr. Deeb, is it possible that there are lead-based parts inside our water meters? And if that's so, then maybe we could get a grant to replace the meters if there are lead-based parts.
It's okay, Mr. Lee,
You don't have to answer. I'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you for your time, City Council. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Deeb, if you want to answer now that his time is up, you're more than welcome.
Oh, okay. To my knowledge, no, and to my knowledge, not every house in the city has lead-based service lines. We have gone through, since we don't have accurate, nobody has accurate records. It used to be a fully compliant use of lead to provide the service line years ago. So what we did is we went through the cities, all the addresses, and took out all the new 75 or 77 and newer homes out of the mix, and now we're concentrating on the older homes that we have not touched. So the estimate we have is pretty accurate, say 80–90% accuracy. And to my knowledge, no meters don't have lead service. The
Okay.
water passes through the pipes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next up, we have Margaret King. George, can you unmute her? Well, I already said your name, but please state your name, the city you reside in, and the street you live on.
Margaret King, Mayfair Street, Dearborn Heights. I was just wanting to know if that money for the school zones is able to be used from the ARPA money. I was quite confused, so I just want clarification that can be done and will be done.
I think we're gonna have to have another ARPA funds study session. I'm gonna get with Michelle. I'm gonna get with the chief of staff, and I think this is something it's not a one-day study session. I can tell you that. I think there needs to be a little bit more information. I think we've made the request of where is this money? How is this money being spent? What can it be spent on? And then, we'll come back and we'll be able to break it here for the public and for the council.
Okay, I just want clarification because public safety is, a top priority in our city and it would help save many lives.
Yeah, 100%. It's
Thank you.
essential. Thank you. Next up, we got Dana Parrish. Please state your name, the city you reside in, and the street you live on.
Oh, you said my name, but that's all right. Dan
I
Parrish.
mean,
Grinley Park, Dearborn Heights. Good evening, everybody. A couple of things. One is, I kind of agree about, the police department. How can I say this? Cautiously word revenue when it concerns the police department. Police department is not a money-making organization, and you really don't want to phrase it that way. I understand where you're coming from, but watch the language that you use. Yes, you want enforcement. You can address the court and fines and things like that, but and that you want more officers for public safety, but you don't want more officers so they can write more tickets. You want more enforcement, not more money, because then it sounds like you're a for-profit agency to generate money by your police officers. And your police officers are there for public safety, enforce the laws, not to generate more money to make the city rich. That can bring all kinds of problems. I'm sure Roger can tell you all about. So I just wanted to kind of give you that information, a little bit of stuff that we gained in Taylor from the years. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. We appreciate you.
Council Chair.
Councilman Constant?
Thank you. I don't know how many people are aware, but probably about the last 2-3 years ago, the state made an initiative. Instead of suspending people's licenses, they reduced the fines on a lot of tickets, and all the cities, they're required to, when somebody comes in, to get those tickets paid off to get them a driver's license unless they have a drinking and driving offense. So the loss in fine and cost ticket revenue is due to a lot of things, people driving less and so forth. But number two, our former Judge Leo Fran used to always say, it's not the purpose of the court to sort of make a profit. Okay, the city, a lot of cities, they call it whipping the dogs. They have the police department out just on every corner writing tickets, and that's no good. Then that leads to problems with a lot of overtime and everything else. What Mr. Parrish says is correct. I was for a little while the assistant prosecutor in Dearborn, and boy, the fines and costs, and young people getting the tickets and a $200 fine, they would be upset. So the lost ticket revenue, fine and cost revenue, is due to a lot of factors, not just the laws not being enforced.
Are you all set there, Councilman?
I'm done.
Thank you. Any other members from the audience? Anybody on Zoom? Hearing none. This was not a meeting. This was just a study session. We will get in contact. I will actually get your contact information from the clerk's office. Just kind of give you something that maybe we can dig in a little deeper. I think this was a good study session. I think you can also understand and hear what the council was anticipating and expecting. To this council, thank you guys so much. Meeting adjourned.
Mr. Chair.